Hi friends, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited about today's video because I'm going to be reviewing and talking about the very anticipated Rem Beauty foundation. At least I have been anticipating this foundation. I thought the rollout was really good. I've spoken about REM Beauty before. I will link cards or something referencing all of my other reviews about their other products. They have been hit or miss, I will say that, and I have spoken about how I was disappointed in some of the rollout, specifically when they first came out, but I think they're doing something right. I think they're making a comeback with this foundation. So if you want to know my thoughts, wear test, everything like that, all of the details on the Sweetener foundation from REM Beauty, then let's go. For some context, I have dry, acne-prone skin. In the Sweetener foundation, right now, my summer shade is medium 9N. Let's start off with the basics. I have my notes over here, so if you see me looking, I'm checking my notes to make sure I don't miss anything. The claims for this Sweetener foundation is that it's long wearing, it has a natural matte finish, delivers supercharged hydration, and has medium buildable coverage. Now, I do agree with most of what they're saying. As far as long wearing, I will get into that a little bit more when I'm talking about the wear test, but I do agree it's long wearing if we're defining it as like 8 to 10 hours. Anything past that, I would not know. I personally don't wear foundation for that long, but you do get a good 8 hours. I will say, when they say a natural matte finish, I have to disagree. I feel like this is more of a just natural, very skin-like kind of foundation. I don't see the matte. Maybe if you're very, very, very dry, this will appear matte on your skin. The finish is absolutely beautiful with this foundation, but natural matte, not so much. I wouldn't say that. Delivers supercharged hydration. Now for me, because I do have dry skin, this foundation feels and looks good on my skin no matter what, no matter how long I've worn it, if I've worn a primer, and I have tested it. I've worn it 5 times at this point, and I've tested it with and without primers and with and without setting it with a loose setting powder. And it looked great. It kind of just depends on your preference, and I will get into that in just a second. Continuing on with some details about the Sweetener foundation. You get 1 ounce of product, very standard, 60 shades. This is the most shades in a foundation range ever. I think Rem Beauty absolutely killed it with their shade range. It was pretty easy for me to find my shade, especially because I'd already tried the Sweetener concealer. If you know your shade in the Sweetener concealer, like your skin matching shade, it's gonna be the same in the foundation. So they equally match, which makes it so much easier. It's really nice. So 60 shades is $35 and available at Ulta as well as their website. I did buy this off of Ulta and they had a deal. I think it's over now, but they had a deal after it first launched on Ulta that if you bought a foundation from them, you would also get the coinciding sponge that they came out with at the same time. This is a new sponge from REM Beauty, and I will also speak just briefly about this in a little bit. Yesterday, I filmed and did a wear test, so you're probably seeing clips throughout this video. I wore this, I put it on around 2 p.m., and I didn't take the foundation off until 10:30, so a good 8.5 hours. Here are my pros. So I'm gonna start off with what I like about the foundation, what works for my dry, acne-prone skin type. I love a full coverage because I have a lot of redness. My skin is really, really freaking out right now. There's a couple of things going on in like my skincare routine to cause that, but my skin is really freaking out right now, and I feel like it covers my redness extremely well. Like this, it does say it's a medium buildable. I absolutely agree with that. The first time I wore this, I only did half a pump, and it was definitely medium coverage. If you use a full pump of this, it's going to completely cover your face, enough to bring it down to the neck as well. It doesn't cling to dry patches either, which is a big thing for me. A lot of full coverage products specifically will cling to dry patches. This does not. This is not a runny foundation whatsoever. This is very creamy. It comes out a bit thick, but it doesn't feel thick. I don't feel this foundation after I've applied it. After like a couple minutes, it's really melded with my skin. You don't feel it, and I really like that. If I'm being honest, I think that this is for normal to dry skin types. Oily skin people, you can make this work if you prep your skin in a specific way. It doesn't break up no matter how long I wore it, no matter what I was doing. Like, I went on a hike with this foundation on. It never looks patchy. However, for oily skin specifically, in this area, in the nose and around the mouth, I feel like it can emphasize pores and texture, but I do think that this foundation works the best with gripping primers. Because I don't have oily skin, I have not tried this with any kind of mattifying or smoothing kind of primer, so I can't speak to say how it would work with that. But if you have oily skin, I feel like you could find this to be a bit too shiny if you don't prep it with a mattifying primer, a mattifying setting spray, powder, before you go in with that foundation. Of course, if you set, this works so nicely with powder. I love using my One Size translucent setting powder with this. It looks beautiful. I am wearing this foundation. Spoiler, I am wearing this foundation today. So I did set my forehead, underneath my eyes, and like on the sides of my nose and on my chin. It just looks like skin naturally living its best life. Like, that's what it gives. That is not to say that if you have oily skin that you wouldn't enjoy this foundation. If you have an oily skin type and you love like the natural kind of finish, you just want your skin to be even, to be corrected, to just look smooth and beautiful, you will love this. As long as you're willing to make that extra commitment and take that step to prep this foundation correctly for your skin type, I think you will really, really love how it wears, how it looks on the skin. Like, I just love how it looks on the skin. The shade range, absolutely immaculate. That is another one of my favorite things. I've seen the darkest of dark skin tones wear the shades, the deep dark shades in this foundation range, and it actually worked for them. And so much so that they actually have options to choose from. So I think the shade range is incredible. As with basically all of their packaging, it is recyclable. So this is like it's like a plasticky kind of packaging. This is not frosted glass. And I know some people didn't like that. I don't mind that at all. I think the packaging, like, it's really cute to me. It's very like lightweight, but not so much so that I feel like I'm gonna break this. Like, I don't think I could break this if I wanted to, if I'm being honest. It does come with a really nice pump. And this is the type of pump where you can really customize how much you want to get out of the bottle. If you just want a half pump, just like the tiniest little bit for like spot concealing, you can do that with this pump. This is made in Italy. Stuff made in Italy tends to be like top-notch, very high quality, very bougie. $35. Honestly, I would gladly pay $35 again for this foundation. I don't think that it's too much, even with the type of packaging. Like I said before, this works amazing with powder. Like, oh my gosh, it just looks so beautiful when set with powder. It also works so nice with cream products. I am wearing Front Row Setter, their blush stick. I'm wearing that today on top with the Rare Beauty Mesmerize liquid highlighter. If you like putting on creams, like cream blush, bronzer, like, you will have such a good time with this foundation. This foundation is not transfer proof, let me just say that right now. Especially if you're oily, you absolutely should set this foundation. If I were to just like accidentally like wipe my hand or like accidentally, you know, smudge a finger over, there's gonna be a streak. Like, it's going to take off the foundation. So at the end of those 8 hours, the one thing that really stood out to me with this foundation is that it retains that very natural skin-like finish. It stays that way. It never looks dull. It never dries out. Now here are some cons, because as much as I love Ariana, as much as I've been loving this foundation, I do want to point out some things, because do I think this is a perfect foundation? No. I think this is pretty darn good, especially for my skin type and my skin concerns. This is a really, really good match for me. After I apply the foundation, I always go over with a sponge and go over my whole face and just pat, pat, pat and get the excess off. And there's always excess that comes off. Now, in regards to this sponge, the sponge is $17. And I will show a little picture of when you first get the sponge, like how small it looks. Because after you wet it, and this is damp, so this is how big it gets compared to my face. So it has 4 flat edges and then this rounded side. This is a really nice sponge. It's giving beauty blender. It's giving like Real Techniques, the orange classic one. Or if you are familiar with DSMD sponges, it's very similar to that, like microfiber. I wouldn't say this is microfiber, but it reminds me of that DSMD sponge. Like if I didn't get it for free when I bought it off of Ulta when they were having that deal, would I have bought this myself? No. And do I think this is necessary? Absolutely not. There are so many sponges on the market. You won't be disappointed if you buy this sponge. You know, when it comes to application, I did notice with this foundation that it doesn't want to cling so much to my nose. Like it applies over my nose completely fine. Like it never breaks up or it's never patchy like while applying. But I do notice that as I continue to do the rest of my face, maybe I go back to my nose. If you apply any bit of pressure or if you accidentally like wipe your nose after applying it, like it does just want to come straight off after like the 5-hour mark, that it was starting to fade, not completely be gone, but it started to fade. This is full coverage, so it's going to cover a lot, but not your deepest, darkest secrets. So with dark spots, they do show just a little bit. And the last con that I can think of is it did settle into my smile lines. However, I have that problem with every foundation. Like basically, unless I use like a dimethicone, like think like Smashbox Photo Finish, the original one. I personally don't really like using like dimethicone primers. I don't know, something about it. I don't really like putting like that ingredient on my skin. So that's a personal preference. But if you don't want that to happen with this, again, it's all about the prep. Just go in with something like the Smashbox Photo Finish. But for me personally, I choose to go without that solution. I choose to not use that just because of personal preference. So I could easily like fix that smile line issue. I just choose not to. Final thoughts. This foundation is a yes for me. When I run out or when I turn into my winter shade and I need a lighter shade, I will be repurchasing / purchasing a different shade. This has been my favorite new foundation discovery like ever. I do think it's worth the money. Dry skin people, I say run and go and buy this. Oily skin people, I say think about it. Maybe watch some reviews of people who have oily skin, because I admittedly am not the best person to go to when it comes to that because I can't relate. But oily skin people, I think you would still like this foundation as long as you're willing to prep it like we talked about earlier. Okay, guys, if you liked this video, if you like reviews, if you want to see more reviews, tutorials, other makeup things from me, then like, comment, subscribe. You already know the drill. I'm sending you guys so much love and light, and I will see you in the next one.